Ladies and gentlemen, hope everyone's having a great day. It is a beautiful day to be alive. Mike from the Hardcover Comic here. Today it's going to be another image series of the week video. Very exciting for me. I love reading me some image titles. Today I'm going to talk about a slightly older series called Manifest Destiny, started in about 2013, still ongoing, published by Image Comics, Skybound, written by Chris Dingus, penciled and inked by Matthew Roberts, and Owen Gianni did the coloring. Fantastic creative team. Hadn't heard of any of them before this series, and now I'm very, very pleased with the talents of all three gentlemen. What a fantastic series. I'm only going to talk about the first 10 issues here. This is one of those series, again, started in 2013. It's been building for a while. At this point, it's one of those books where we should have seen an oversized hardcover, but we haven't yet. So it's a series that has quickly risen to my must-bind list. I love it. I love this series so much. It's such a fun time. Yeah, I'm going to talk about the first 10 issues here. You've been seeing the covers. It gets weird. It gets crazy. We'll get into all of that. I wanted to talk a little like relatively in depth about these 10 issues, just sort of going through it all. But yeah, this is a great series that I think a lot of people have let slip under their radar. But let's dive into it, guys. So, of course, as with all series, it starts with an issue number one. So the story takes place in 1804. You've got a Captain Lewis and a Captain Clark. So if that gives you any idea of where this series is going to be going, it's the exploration of America. Back 200 years ago, and it's that with a twist, right? It wouldn't be an Image comic without a little bit of a twist. So we've got we've got Lewis and Clark out adventuring. Of course, Lewis is the intellectual. Clark is more of the sterner captain here. He's the making sure the workers are doing what they have to do. And basically, what we find out is there are inmates and there are troops on this ship. Both groups working together, sent by the president to take care of the situation, to investigate. And they start seeing some funky stuff, like arcs, like animals we haven't seen before. So basically, their job is to explore this territory, document as much as they can, get as many samples as they can, and just figure out what it is that's going on. So we start learning about all these characters, right? The convicts and the troops as well. We find out that all of them are none of them really have any connections in the real world. No real family. Parents have died. They're not married. They don't have children. And so, the convicts actually are the ones who start realizing this. Hey, we're in this group. We don't know who we can trust. And of course, while they're doing this, they get caught sort of scheming and talking about running away. And of course, shit hits the fan. We start to see the craziness of Manifest Destiny really show up. We start seeing these beasts appear, and I don't want to give too much away. There are a lot of amazing action sequences that I did not include here because they're gory, and they give away the fascination that is discovering this stuff while you read the series. Fantastic artwork, as you guys can see. Beautiful panel work and angles chosen, and so after we have this sort of attack on the crew, they keep going down sail and they're heading for a place called La Charette, which is a small little I forget what they call it. Whatever. It's a small little area that they're supposed to reach, a small little village, and sort of meet up with some folks. And they see this woman up on a cliff. Something happens to her. They keep moving on, and they start seeing more and more weird stuff happen. Right? They see this oddly decomposed body on the ground as they're making their way to La Charette. And the intrigue really starts to build here, right? We've seen these monsters. We find La Charette now. We see this decomposed body, this woman who was up on a cliff. Everyone's wondering what it is that's going on. The convicts are getting suspicious. Everyone's getting a little frightened that they have to fight these unusual creatures. And of course, they get to this village, and as with the pattern of the story, things are not what they seem. The town's boarded up. Was there an infection? Was there were they attacked? Are they hiding from something? Was there was there a conflict within the village people? All this stuff is happening, and then we get the reveal, what it is that's going on. So it's very difficult for me to do these without giving much away, but it's been a while. We're seeing a lot of crazy stuff happen. These people show up and they're essentially taken over by this weird plant life, right? Sort of like a swamp thing. It's almost like as if the green took over. And after at this point, we start learning about the history of La Charette, how the people arrived. What it was that was going on, this sort of mystery, that this mystery sickness and illness that appeared where people would get sprayed by something and get ill. Very, very interesting stuff. It's a nice little piece of the story. But then we get to see the main reason Lewis and Clark had to come to La Charette, and that is Sakagawa, who is the native Indian girl, and a Mr. Charbonneau, who is her baby daddy, basically, and he is her escort, and basically the job is he has to stick with them until she gives birth to a child that she is bearing. So I don't know. I mean, we haven't been given all the details about what the situation is there, but that's what's happening. And so at this point, they find out that these people had taken care of those wild beasts out there, and now their plan is, we made it back to the ship. How are we going to get rid of this forestry? Right, our job is to come here, document, discover, and take care of anything that may be a problem for the United States. And so they start saying, we're going to burn these things down. All this plant life. They tried chopping off the limbs, the heads, the heart. None of it works, right? These plant body people, they can only be removed by fire. And at this point, we start seeing basically Sakagawa as she becomes like this sort of silent assassin bodyguard type character while being pregnant, mind you. And we start finding out a little bit more about her and her capabilities. And of course, they head back. They think everything's going to be okay. Maybe we just need to get rid of La Charette. No big deal. They've got these Greek fires, they call them. And then it turns out it's not just the people. It's the wildlife as well. And again, the artwork by Matthew Roberts and Owen Gianni, I mean, the coloring, it's all beautiful. Right, so we've got this whole crew coming in. They've got all their Greek fire bombs. They're ready to burn the whole place down, the whole forest down if they have to. And they're running into infected bears, rabbits, deer, elk, all this stuff, right? It's really amazing seeing the artwork, seeing the greenified monsters. Of course, accidents happen. A few folks get burned by their own devices. You get basically this recounting told by Lewis as he's writing it down sort of in his journal. We start finding out a little more about his journals as well. Of course, we see more of the exploration of this land and the weird and bizarre creatures. We're still trying to find out how all of this is happening, right? Why these creatures are here. And of course, Sakagawa is a very crucial part in this. She kills pretty much everything, man. We see the La Charette people join the crew as well, and they start helping out, adding their own unique talents to the crew. And it's great because you get to see the evolution of this crew. People's spirits rise and fall. And you get to see Lewis start to build this relationship with the doctor. I forget what her name is off the top of my head, but she helps him do dissection. Anyway, they wind up, while going down the river, they wind up getting stuck. And it turns out there's another one of these arcs underneath the ship. And there's a whole lot more going on underneath that ship that they weren't aware of. So what ends up happening is you have the crew separate to folks on shore and folks in the boat. And they sort of have to help each other out, balance out the situation. Of course, one group's dealing with one thing, the other group's dealing with another. There are these weird, tentacle things pulling at them in the water. Really, really great dynamic artwork. Again, a lot of action. And you see the character communication and interactions begin to evolve as they start trusting each other or distrusting each other. Again, don't want to spoil everything. Of course, as men are, things start happening between these two characters. Again, I forget their names, guys. I apologize. And we get to see the next phase of what's in the forest. Meanwhile, the crew on the boat is trying to take care of this huge toad underneath the boat that is basically scooping up anyone who tries to get in or out. And what their plan is they throw food high up in the air. It jumps to grab the food, and they try to fire at it in that time. And their plan doesn't work all that well to begin with. Meanwhile, on the land, the folks are gathering more samples, different insects, whatever they can find, and they've developed a rope system where they essentially send the sample, like they send it down this rope, and the rope basically brings it to Captain Lewis on the ship, and he does what he needs to do. And like I said, on land, there is a whole different situation going on, right? On the land, they encounter these huge mosquitoes. And of course, mosquitoes are annoying enough as it is when they're small, but now they've got these giant ones attacking them. And it turns out they don't just attack you. It turns out they also they spawn inside of you and they reproduce inside you. So again, there's a lot of horror, a lot of supernatural suspense type stuff going on in this story. It's so great. The art is so visceral and disgusting, and good and horrific. It's really well done. Again, the way the plot works is it doesn't move too fast, but it moves fast enough that you're interested and you're gripped with each story arc. We see, of course, they get a sample of these mosquitoes. They find out what happened on the land between the two characters that you had seen before. It wasn't anything good. And of course, they're trying to deal with this crazy monstrosities and all the craziness happening all around them. But they also have to deal with the craziness happening between the people in the boat itself. A really fine balance in keeping morale high and keeping the mission going. But they do find a way to eradicate these mosquitoes. They find a plant that helps, and they start concocting these sort of remedies, as humans do. They start solving the problems that they need to solve. It's really cool to see because again, you've got these characters that have to work together despite these ridiculous circumstances, right? It's small things like that make this book really great. And then, of course, you've had something crazy happen within the crew. There's a lot going on, and it's a lot of fun to read. The artwork is incredible. The dialogue is great. I really can't recommend this series enough, guys. That's where I'm going to have to wrap things up, folks. I can't wait to bind this series. You guys should really check this out. If you have, let me know what you think below. If I've piqued your interest, let me know as well. Love when you guys comment. Very excited. Manifest Destiny Image Series of the Week. This was Mike from the Hardcover Comic. As always, thank you for tuning in, and you stay classy, Internet.